7 miraculous body parts transformed by a divine awakening, revealed through prophetic healing. In the quaint village of Little Whimsy, a thrilling wave of divine expectancy was stirring. Whispers danced through the cobbled streets, igniting hope, all centered around the astonishing revelation that 7 miraculous body parts were destined to be transformed. It was a promise delivered through the fervent prayer of a devoted single mother, Mary, as she knelt in the rustic chapel adorned with flickering candles and the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers. Here, amidst her desperate pleas for her precious son, Jacob, who was battling a terminal illness, she felt the very air crackle with divine potential. As twilight gathered like a warm embrace, Mary pressed her face into her hands, her heart heavy yet fervent. "Lord, I trust in your power," she whispered, a mixture of tears and faith cascading over her cheeks. Suddenly, the chapel doors swung open, revealing a visiting preacher draped in an aura of electrifying grace. The light surrounding him seemed to shimmer, igniting a sparkle in the eyes of the villagers gathered in the pews. "Friends," he called out with a voice that resonated like thunder across the hills, "miracles are upon us. St. Jude is ready to lift our cries to the heavens." Eager hearts hung on his every word, and in that very moment, as Mary felt the surge of hope bloom within her, the preacher declared, "7 miraculous body parts will be transformed, affirming our united faith." Gasps filled the chapel as Mary's heart swelled, a prophetic word spoken, igniting a spark deep in her soul. Fueled by this revelation, she rallied the villagers, marble-like resolve settling in her heart. "Join me in a week of prayers to St. Jude. Let us reclaim our hope." Their eyes glinted with both excitement and doubt, yet the undeniable urgency of Mary's faith pulled them together. Through the week, sounds of heartfelt prayers enveloped Little Whimsy like a mighty wind. Voices rose in a sacred crescendo, each prayer interwoven with stories of grief and hope, igniting a fire for healing. A local farmer, once blinded by despair, was found dancing in joyous light. A widow, once burdened with sorrow, discovered her crippled hand, now restored to its former strength, grasping tightly onto the comfort of her friends. Each miracle affirmed their bond, knitting the fabric of community richer than before. Yet, as the week wound to its climax, uncertainty crept into their hearts. "Can we ask for too much? Will our prayers lift high enough to break through?" murmured a voice at the back. Mary stood tall, conviction anchoring her. "We have come this far. We must believe together." Just when Mary thought they were on the brink of witnessing the ultimate miracle, a heart-stopping silence engulfed the chapel. It throbbed with anticipation, the air thick with prayers lifted to the heavens. Mary clasped her hands tightly, her thoughts swirling with pleas for a sign for Jacob, the village, for something greater. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The silence seemed to stretch infinitely, echoing with promises of hope and heartache. The villagers held their collective breath, eyes fixed on the altar as if waiting for the very heavens to respond. Would their faith unlock a transformation powerful enough to heal young Jacob? A miracle was just within grasp, trembling on the edge of reality, leaving Little Whimsy trembling with expectancy. What would the breaking dawn reveal? The sun began to rise, spilling golden light into the chapel, illuminating the faces of the congregation. They were weary yet filled with a fervent hope, like a seed ready to bloom. Mary stood at the altar, her heart chanting silent prayers on behalf of Jacob and all those in need of the miraculous. As she gazed around, a collective breath seemed to rise from the villagers. Each face reflected dreams and burdens, faith and fear. They were expectant, a tapestry woven together by the threads of their shared prayers. In that moment, Mary sensed a stirring within her, a deep connection to something far greater than herself. Then, just as the light caught the edge of the windows, a gentle wind swept through the pews, rustling the papers and banners. The soft murmur of awe filled the air, as whispers of prophetic potential flitted from mouth to mouth. Could it be? Someone breathed, eyes wide with wonder. "Be still, my friends," Mary implored, her voice steadier than her trembling heart. "We must remain open to God's will." With each word, she felt the atmosphere shift, as though the heavens themselves were leaning closer, eager to grasp the faithful cries rising up. Suddenly, with a speed that shocked them all, a magnificent light burst forth from the altar. The villagers gasped as it brightened, saturating the chapel with hues of hope. The preacher, still towering in his radiance, stepped forward, the golden glow enveloping him like a hallowed mantle. His voice, now softer but brimming with power, called out, "The 7 parts of healing are upon us. In faith we gather not just for ourselves but for our community." As he spoke, the air trembled, and out of the light emerged 7 glowing orbs, each one pulsating with a unique rhythm. The villagers drew closer, their fears dissolving as they felt the divine energy wrap around them like a warm embrace. Each orb shimmered with distinct colors, resonating with hopes and prayers offered during their week of supplication. Mary's heart leaped as she reached for the radiant orb of gold, representing the healing of wounds both seen and unseen. She remembered Jacob's laugh, his innocent joy that had been eclipsed by illness. Would this orb carry the very essence of divine restoration to her precious child? Then a deep, reverberating voice echoed throughout the chapel. The preacher continued, "Each light is a sign of what is to be restored. Your faith has called forth the miraculous." Tears cascaded down Mary's cheeks, flowing like rivers of gratitude. Up front, the villagers began to hold hands, forming a circle around the altar. They swayed as if guided by a sacred rhythm, moving in harmony with the pulsing lights. Hope morphed into palpable energy, and Mary felt herself lift, carried by the prayers of her community. "Lord, let us be the instruments of your healing," she cried out, her voice blending with those around her. "Through our faith, let transformation arise." But just as the peaks of joy rose high, a chilling doubt whispered in the back of her mind. Was she worthy of such a divine miracle? As if sensing her struggle, the preacher's gaze met Mary's, an understanding passing between them. "Believe in the impossible, sister," he urged, "for we are not limited by our fears but emboldened by our faith." As the orbs began to swirl and pulse faster, casting shimmering reflections on the villagers' faces, Mary felt an unshakable hope envelop her. Yet, beneath that exhilarating anticipation, she sensed another presence of mystery, an unknown path on the brink of unfolding. Hold fast to your faith, for the moment of divine intervention is near. But what will we discover within that truth? The question hung in the air, thick with possibility, as a new dawn broke. The villagers stood ready, hearts united in hope. But what awaited them just beyond that divine revelation? As the vibrant colors swirled above them, the atmosphere in the chapel thickened with expectancy. It was as if the very air crackled with divine intention, compelling every heart to lean in closer, to grasp the treasures that were being offered. Mary felt the warmth of the golden orb resonate with her spirit. Each beat echoed her fervent prayer, a plea for Jacob, for healing, for an embracing of life anew. Suddenly, one of the orbs shifted in the air. It moved with purpose, hovering directly above the congregation. A hushed stillness fell over the villagers as their eyes fixed on the radiant source of light. A melody, soft and pure, began to resonate, filling the space with an ethereal sound that seemed to draw them deeper into a sacred communion. "Look," someone whispered, tears glistening in their eyes. "The orb is singing. It knows our hearts." As the notes danced through the chapel, they sparked emotions long held captive within. Memories rose up: laughter, loss, dreams deferred. The orb pulsed in response, reflecting the very essence of their shared experiences. A sense of release swept over the villagers. With each note, burdens lifted and hearts began to swell with newfound courage. Mary closed her eyes, surrendering to the beauty of the moment. She could feel the orb's energy enveloping her, infusing her with warmth and comfort. It was as if the light was speaking to the core of her being, encouraging her to embrace her doubts and transform them into faith. Fear not, for healing begins in surrender. The preacher's voice echoed through the sacred space, weaving its way into each heart. Open your hearts wide. Let hope flow in unison. The villagers responded instinctively, hands reaching toward the orb. They were no longer individuals with stories of despair. They were a symphony of faith, rising together in harmony. Mary opened her eyes. Scanning the faces of her community, she felt that they were collectively on the brink of something extraordinary. Hopes intermingled like threads of gold, creating a rich tapestry of spiritual renewal. Together we claim our healing, Mary declared, her voice rising above the swell of emotion. With every prayer, we reshuffle the destinies intertwined among us. Another orb drew closer, its pulsating violet glow inviting a wave of wonder. It felt familiar, a sign of restoration that called to mind the prayers for those suffering from brokenness, anxiety, and loneliness. Mary's spirit danced in recognition, understanding that this light carried the essence of deep connection, heart to heart, the healing they all desired. Suddenly, the chapel was illuminated in radiant hues. Words began to form in the fleeting silence. The first is for the broken-hearted. The preacher's voice reverberated with authority, intention ringing clear. You will find beauty in your scars. Let the light gather within. As everyone listened with rapt attention, the energy transformed. The orbs continued to swirl as if guided by invisible strings. Each fulfilled promise triggered a collective gasp, a sharp intake of breath that hung like a sacred pause within the space. And then, like a floodgate bursting open, stories began to emerge. People shared their burdens aloud, entrusting their deepest vulnerabilities to the gentle glow. One by one, they witnessed small miracles. Hearts were lightened, fears alleviated, pain transformed. But just as hope billowed large like a balloon ready to take flight, Mary felt a whisper tugging at her heart. Wasn't he healing more than just an exchange? What if it meant embracing the unknown, confronting deep-rooted scars with faith? Could her own journey share still untold secrets, waiting to be revealed? Lord, she murmured inwardly, do I have the strength to walk this path? The sunlight streaming through the chapel's windows caught the shimmering orbs above, creating a dazzling display. A divine revelation brewed. It was more than healing. It was an awakening of purpose and destiny. What would it cost to embrace this beautiful transformation? And once they stepped into the light, who would they become? The villagers stood tethered to the precipice of the divine, hearts and minds aligned in anticipation. But as their faith swelled, they sensed something more awaited them beyond the warmth of the light. The call for healing seemed to peer into the very essence of their souls. There, amidst the radiance, a stirring question remained. What depths of love and sacrifice would they need to fathom in order to receive their divine blessings? The air thickened with holy awe, and a sense of urgency washed over them all. They were called to step into the truth, but what awaited them on the other side? As the moment hung like a delicate thread, the choir of villagers breathed in unison, hearts eager yet trembling. The orb's light pulsated, casting shadows and adding depth to their prayers. Faces glowed, not just from the light, but from something more profound, a shared understanding that their lives were intertwined in an intricate dance of divine purpose. Step forward, the preacher's voice rang out, powerful and clear. If you feel the stirring of the Spirit within you. At once, a few brave souls moved forward, as if pulled by an invisible force. Each footstep echoed their readiness to embrace the unknown. Mary watched as her neighbors shed their hesitations, drawing strength from the light that surrounded them. She could feel the hum of energy escalating, a melody of devotion fueling their boldness. And then it happened. A gentle wind caressed the chapel, whispering along the floorboards. The orbs responded, shifting in rhythm, creating a tapestry of swirling color that seemed to urge the congregation onward. Mary's heart raced. Were they really ready for this? As the first individual reached the altar, A soft glow surrounded them. A woman cried out, "I feel it! I feel the warmth!" With every exclamation, the atmosphere ignited with faith, a chain reaction of hope ignited through each soul willing to lay bare their wounds. Mary thought of Jacob. Tears brimmed her eyes as she considered the weight he carried. His struggles felt unbearable at times. Could this be the moment? Could the orb's light illuminate the dark places of his heart? The whisper inside her grew louder, igniting an urgency she couldn't ignore. "Jacob, please, Lord, touch him," she prayed, each word wrapped in desperation and faith. "Let him feel your presence." Another villager stepped forward. His voice trembled as he confessed, "I've battled despair for years, but now I want to be whole. I crave your light." The orb flickered, responding to his plea. Suddenly, the air swelled with a beautiful vibration. It was as if the heavens opened, pouring divine peace into each corner of the chapel. A healing began not just for one, but for all. Mary's vision blurred with tears. She felt a pull, a beckoning to share her own struggles. What lay hidden beneath her facade? The fear of inadequacy, the worry that she was not enough. These were burdens she had carried alone for far too long. But could sharing her truth be the key to liberation? Could their brokenness be a collective offering, a fragrant incense rising to touch the heart of God? The preacher motioned toward her. "Sister Mary, your journey matters. Speak your truth. Let the light gather within." Stunned, she could do nothing but step forward, leaving the confines of self-doubt behind. She felt the orb's gaze upon her, urging her onward. "I am afraid," she began, her voice steadying with each syllable. "Afraid of failing those I love. Afraid of the wounds that seem to deepen rather than heal." The chapel held its breath, enveloped in sacred silence. The energy coalesced around her, and she saw the orbs dim for a moment, listening. "But I trust there is healing in vulnerability. In sharing our hurts, we unveil the divine power that can turn our scars into stories of grace." Tears flowed freely among the villagers, resonating with her revelation. They were on the precipice not just of healing, but of transformation. The orb's glow brightened once again, and she felt a surge of love surrounding her, a divine embrace that pushed aside her fears. A voice whispered deeply in her soul, "Your journey of faith is a communal tapestry woven with threads of courage." Then, as if responding to the weight of this collective trust, something miraculous began to happen. The lights began to pulse outwards, and Mary could see the villagers no longer just faces. Every single one was marked by a unique glimmer of gold, illuminating the deep places of their souls where healing awaited. Faces softened, hope kindled in their eyes, and an unmistakable shift embraced the room. "Together we are transformed." They began to whisper and chant, a powerful declaration of faith rising as one. But just then, amid the sacred crescendo, a still small voice echoed in her heart, compounding the wonder unraveling in front of her. What if this is just the beginning? As she pondered, the orbs shimmered with anticipation. Behind every healing, a deeper mystery beckoned. What awaited them in this sacred journey? Would they unearth the profound truths that lay hidden beneath their surface wounds? The air vibrated with this next unfolding. As they prepared to step into the unknown, what awaited them beyond this moment of divine awakening? A hush fell over the chapel, thick with expectation. Each villager felt the pulse of the light beneath their skin, a tangible reminder of the Spirit's presence among them. They were not just witnesses. They were participants in a holy awakening. Mary stood at the altar, embracing the warmth that enveloped her. As she breathed deeply, she felt the weight of unspoken stories swirling around her. Each villager was a vessel of their own struggles, hopes, and dreams. She sensed that their collective faith was weaving an intricate tapestry, one that shimmered with possibility and healing. "Together we rise," she called out, surprising herself with the power of her voice. The words echoed through the sacred space, igniting a fire in every heart present. The orb blazed brighter, sending radiant beams across the congregation. Faces transformed, each person reflecting divine light. Wisps of joy danced in the air, The once quiet villagers, now emboldened, began to share their burdens with fervor. Each confession, each acknowledgement of pain, became an offering to the divine. I've struggled with doubt, I've carried grief too long, I yearn for peace. Mary saw the orb ripple, reacting to their unity. It was as if the very essence of their souls was being laid bare to God, who welcomed it without hesitation. The atmosphere thickened with an electric anticipation, and she felt an urging in her heart. Let us not shy away from our deepest wounds, she implored. They are the very gateways to freedom. The air shimmered with energy. One by one, hands were raised, not in surrender but in connection and sign of their joint commitment to journey together in faith. The melodies of their vulnerabilities filled the space like an army of angels, courageously marching forward, and lifting burdens where they had stood heavy for too long. Suddenly, a ripple surged through the crowd. A man with weary eyes collapsed onto his knees. I need to be freed from my chains, he cried out, his voice raw with urgency. Mary watched in awe as the orb shuddered and expanded, sending out waves of light that cascaded around the chapel like a waterfall of grace. Emboldened, others joined him, pressing forward, yearning to shed their darkness. The winds howled softly again, but this time it felt like divine breath filling the space, whispering promises of restoration. Then, without any warning, the light flashed intensely, illuminating every corner of the chapel. Villagers gasped as they felt their very essence being touched. There was a revealing and unveiling of divine truth that spoke not of their weaknesses but of their tremendous capacity for love and grace. Mary felt the shift within herself. The things she had once thought were insurmountable flaws now transformed into powerful testimonies, each pain carrying the potential for glory. As they sought, miracles ignited across the room. A woman clutched her chest, a long-fought battle with deep sorrow lifted, replaced by laughter. A girl who had been unable to walk took her first joyful steps. The orb pulsed in reply, pulsing life into the gathered souls. What is happening? Whispered a voice nearby, full of awe. Miracles are among us. Mary responded, her heart soaring. God is revealing his love through us. The connection among them deepened. It was as if they became one body, a living entity pulsing with truth, grace, and healing. Hope was no longer an abstract idea. It had manifested, wrapping around each villager, binding them in a divine embrace. In that moment, a presence of holy urgency wafted through, stirring something profound within all of them. And amidst the stirring, Mary felt a deep calling tracing her very being. What lay ahead was sacred, and it beckoned with daring promises. But just as the revelry reached its peak, a chilling thought fluttered in. What if this is a doorway to something even greater? The orb flickered, almost as if it were contemplating their future. What divine wonders awaited them beyond the present? The air shimmered with countless possibilities, as the villagers stood ready to meld their faith with the miraculous. Where would this journey lead next? The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, shimmering with the energy of faith ignited. Mary stood still, surrounded by light and grace, her heart a symphony of hopeful beats. Faces glowed, reflecting not just the orb's brilliance, but the transformation taking place within. Each villager felt the pulse of something extraordinary, as if the divine had woven itself entirely into their essence. In that sacred moment, Mary remembered the countless prayers whispered in the darkness, the silent yearnings for answers and healing. Every heart present had a story, deeply etched with wounds and scars. Yet here they were, daring to unveil their truths, standing shoulder to shoulder, united in vulnerability and courage. Someone else, share your story, let's lift them to God, she encouraged, her voice ringing with clarity. It wasn't just about healing. It was a collective call to trust in something beyond themselves. A woman with trembling hands stepped forward, her eyes glistening. I've lost hope, my dreams feel shattered. I don't know how to move forward, she confessed, her voice quaking. The orb responded, glowing vividly, entwining her pain and hope with its radiant light. You are not abandoned, Mary whispered softly, reaching out to the woman. The room fell silent as the aura of the orb swirled, enfolding them both in shimmering energy. "I see you," Mary declared, her heart swelling. "You are more than your setbacks. God has new dreams for you." A mighty wave washed over the congregation, a shared realization dawning upon them. Each confession inspired another, like ripples across a still pond. Villagers began to open up, sharing not only their burdens, but the joy that bubbled beneath the surface. Healing stories surfaced like pearls, one after another, illuminating the chapel with unparalleled beauty. "Last night, I prayed for strength," a young man shouted, pointing to the orb. "It felt like a fire consuming my fear." "I felt it too," another voice chimed in, igniting a chorus of shared experiences. "The weight has lifted. I can breathe, I can hope." Mary's heart soared. The room vibrated with belief and love, lifting each villager higher. Miracles were unfolding, not only in the spirit but in their physical bodies. An elderly man who had long battled with a knee ailment stood, confident and steady, as he began to dance. A chorus of laughter mixed with tears filled the air. Joy surged like a river among them, compelling those who felt stuck in the shadows to step into the light. "God is here. It's a divine awakening," Mary called, her words a spark igniting more flame. Suddenly the orb pulsed, resonating with an energy so potent that it nearly took her breath away. For a split second, it seemed to expand, casting luminous strands toward every villager, light weaving through hearts, igniting dormant dreams, and stirring hopes long forgotten. As the energy flowed, Mary saw visions, each villager transformed, carrying hope anew. She felt God whispering to her, filling her with anticipation. Was this movement merely the beginning? "Prepare your hearts," she urged, eyes bright with divine inspiration. "We are being called to something greater. What comes next will test our faith and deepen our love." But within that call lingered an undercurrent of uncertainty. Could they hold onto every miracle? Did the weight of expectation threaten to dim the light shining around them? The orb flickered again, its light growing sharper. As the congregation held their breaths, Mary sensed an impending shift, a fork in their journey, one that could lead to divine revelations beyond imagination. Where would they go from here? The promise of more miracles danced tantalizingly on the horizon, calling them into the unknown. The moment hovered, thick with expectancy. The orb pulsed rhythmically, sending shimmers across the room, like stars reflecting in dark waters. Mary felt that shimmer seep into her very soul. It was awakening something deep inside her, something that had been waiting. A collective breath was held as they leaned forward, eyes wide, hearts racing. What if this isn't just a moment? Mary pondered, her spirit stirring. What if this is the dawn of a new reality? Another villager stepped up, a young woman with curls that framed her hopeful face. "I've lost my way," she admitted, her voice trembling like a candleless flame. "Every choice feels wrong, and I'm afraid I'm destined to wander." "No, you are destined to flourish," Mary exclaimed. As she spoke, the orb flickered with intensified light, illuminating the young woman's face in a cascade of golden hues. "Trust that God will guide your path. Stand firm in your heart's desires." The woman blinked back tears, held captive by the divine energy circulating around her. Suddenly, warmth enveloped her, and she smiled, the heaviness of despair lifting. Unbeknownst to them, as they shared, the energy of their confessions wove tightly together, as though forming an unbreakable web of faith. The air tasted sweet, electric with something divine. "Look!" shouted a man near the back, the community's blacksmith, a stout figure with a wide grin. "My hands! They're healed." With vigor, he flexed his fingers, which had long been marred by pain. No longer stiff and weary, his hands moved fluidly, dancing through the air in a testimony of transformation. Gasps erupted, followed by roaring cheers. The atmosphere was intoxicating, hearts soaring from one miracle to the next. Each story echoed, resonating fiercely within, as if to say, "We are all worthy of God's grace." Then, just as the joy reached a crescendo, Mary saw it, a shadow darting across the orb. It flickered, dimming momentarily, causing whispers of worry to ripple through the throng. Someone gasped. A chill threatened to invade the warmth of the miracle-filled space. "Hold your faith," Mary proclaimed, reaching toward the orb. "This is a test of our unity. Trust in him. He is greater than any shadow." Around her, faith began to swell. Villagers grasped each other as hands, forming a circle, anchoring one another against the impending darkness. "We're together in this," a voice boomed, sparking a wave of strength that ricocheted through the gathering. With determination, Mary closed her eyes, reaching inward for that deep well of faith. She began to pray, their voices intertwined, rising to meet the heavens. The orb responded, swirling in fervent colors, a tapestry of light breaking through the shadow. In that radiant moment, something miraculous happened, a magnificent flash. An unexpected wave washed over them, a healing so profound it coursed through body and spirit. Mary could hardly breathe. It was as if a chorus of angels filled the chapel with melodies of grace. When she opened her eyes, the orb floated before her, shimmering brighter than ever. And then, quietly, whispers began. "What's next? What waits for us?" The villagers with hopeful gazes turned to her, each one keen for what lay ahead. There was a hovering promise in the air, anticipation coiling tighter with every heartbeat. Mary smiled, heart trembling with the joy of revelation. This is just the beginning. Prepare for the wonders unfold. What we experience next will stretch our faith beyond what we ever imagined. With the congregation daring to dream anew, a question loomed large: what wondrous transformation awaited them next? As the echoes of their collective prayer filled the air, an undeniable energy thrummed through the chapel. Villagers swayed with the rhythm of their faith, hearts pulsing in unison. Mary could feel the warmth pooling around them, like a gentle embrace from above. The light from the orb flickered, casting shadows that danced along the walls, reminding everyone present of the thin veil that separated their reality from the divine. Someone in the front softly cleared their throat, a wise elder with hair like silver threads woven together. "Mary, we feel something changing within us. What more can we expect? How do we continue this journey?" Mary turned her gaze to the elder, sensing the depth of inquiry in his eyes. "We must walk with open hearts, ready to embrace the unexpected," she replied. "God's plans often unfold in ways we cannot foresee. Each miracle we've witnessed is a step toward something greater, a tapestry slowly woven before our eyes." Suddenly, another villager, a child with bright eyes and dirty hands, tugged at Mary's skirts. "Could we see miracles every day, like the ones we've seen just now?" The innocence of his question held a weight that hung in the air. "Why not?" Mary replied, her voice carrying an infectious warmth. "God's love is abundant. Miracles happen in the simple moments where we share kindness, spread hope, and support each other in love." As she spoke, the orb responded, pulsating in radiant hues of blue, green, and gold. It sparked a flicker of light around the child, momentarily illuminating his face. A soft gasp rose from the crowd, drawing everyone's attention. "Yes," the child exclaimed, eyes wide in wonder. "I believe. I want to help others." The sincerity in his voice was like that of a young prophet declaring a truth far ahead of many grown-ups. One by one, hearts began to share their burdens. A woman with weary eyes rose slowly. "I carry the weight of grief. My husband passed last year," and the shadow lingers. Her voice trembled, but hope flickered within her like an ember. Mary stepped forward, sensing the pain. "Sister, grief does not define you. God's love can fill those empty spaces. Let us bring it into the light together." With hands clasped, they closed their eyes, inviting the orb's illumination to touch her heart. As the villagers joined, a wave of compassion washed over them. Beneath the cascading light, they collectively breathed in that sacred moment. Around them, the energy surged. Hands touched shoulders, and hearts intertwined. Another villager spoke, a farmer whose fields had yielded little. "Could he heal our lands too? Please show us." The orb sparkled in agreement, echoing their desires. Deep within the hearts of those gathered, something shifted. Miracles, it seemed, were not just physical ailments. They were hopes reborn, fields nourished with the spirit of unity, and love shared without reservation. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation, an undercurrent of potential that thrummed louder than any whisper of fear. "We are transformed when we unite," someone shouted. With a collective exuberance, they raised their hands, surrendering to the divine presence. Each pulse of laughter, each shared tear, intertwined their spirits deeper with the rhythm of the sacred. Every story, every request magnified their faith, a spiraling chain that glowed brighter with each passing second. Yet, still, as shimmers of light danced overhead, one question loomed like a cloud waiting to burst. Would they be ready for the deeper transformations that awaited them on this journey? Just then, a childish laughter rang out, a sound of pure joy. It beckoned them toward the unknown, hinting at the wonders still waiting to be revealed. What glimmers of grace lay beyond the horizon of their united faith? The following day dawned soft and bright, with golden rays spilling through the humble windows of the chapel. The villagers gathered again, drawn together by an invisible thread of unity and hope. They could feel it, a soft glow of anticipation hanging in the air, stirring their hearts like the first notes of a symphony. Mary stood among them, her heart warmed by the love that surrounded her. The orb pulsed gently beside her, a faithful companion alive with the divine spark of possibility. "Yesterday, we tasted the sweetness of goddess love," she began, gazing at the eager faces before her. "Today, we shall discover how this love can move mountains." The elder with silver hair raised his hand, his voice grave yet hopeful. "Mary, what if we face disbelief? What if our hopes shatter instead of magnifying our faith?" Mary stepped closer, her eyes shimmering with kindness. "Doubt is like a shadow. It exists only where light is absent. Let us bring the light of faith into every corner of our hearts. We must believe that God is more significant than our fears." Just then, a young woman in the crowd, her eyes brimming with tears, whispered, "Can he heal my broken dreams? I long to see my beloved to return, but he is lost to us." Mary could almost feel the ache in her voice, like a note struck in sorrowful harmony. Without hesitation, she knelt beside the woman, taking her hands into her own. "Let us offer our hurt to God. He can restore hope where it feels lost." As the villagers gathered in a circle, each clasping hands with one another, Mary prayed aloud. "Lord, fill this place with your healing light. Lift every burden, every whisper of despair. May your love work in us and through us." The energy surged, coursing through their entwined hands. The orb brightened, transforming from soft glimmers to a dazzling radiance. A divine echo of their collective prayer reverberated through the chapel. A gasp broke through the crowd as suddenly the air shimmered, and a figure appeared within the opalescent glow. It seemed to radiate warmth and hope, its presence a living testament to grace. "I am here," the light spoke, the sound like wind chimes stirred by a gentle breeze. The young woman fell to her knees, weeping with joy. "Is it you, my love?" she cried, extending her trembling hands toward the figure. "Yes, my dear," the figure replied, stepping closer. Tears flowed like rivers in the eyes of the villagers, many embracing dreams they once thought to be lost. Healing, reunion, love unbroken. Eyes bright with wonder, Mary felt the orb dance joyfully, a blinding light swirling around them in a divine embrace. "Can you see? Miracles are among us. They are as real as the air we breathe," she proclaimed. "If we open our hearts, believing without reservation, more wonders will unfold before us." With renewed courage, the farmer who once doubted stepped forward. "If the light can touch lives like this, can it reveal the fate of our fields? Our hopes rest upon them." The orb sparkled above him, and with a soft thunder, knew they would receive what they sought. Nature itself was alive with expectancy around them. "What do you ask?" Mary pressed, the collective breath of the villagers held tight in anticipation. Vibrations of hope rippled through the crowd. Let us plant seeds of love in every corner of our land. They cried. Heal our soil. Awaken it from its slumber. Mary raised her hands, the light merging with their voices, a crescendo of faith filling the air. In unity, our prayer ascends. May we bear witness to the divine awakening in every heart, every field. In that moment, as humility and hope intertwined, a soft rustle began in the earth, an ancient promise beckoning them forward. It was a powerful reminder that every prayer had the potential to become a seed, yielding the fruits of faith. Yet, as the sunlight glimmered brighter, the winds whispered of greater wonders still yet to come. What would happen next in their unfolding journey? Would their united spirit reveal more than just miracles? The villagers stood on the precipice of belief, ready to embrace all that lay ahead. As the day dawned radiant and filled with hope, the villagers of Little Whimsy stood united, hearts brimming with faith. The chapel was alive with expectation, each soul warming with the promise of miraculous change. Mary felt the golden orb pulsing beside her, its gentle glow a reminder of the divine transformations they had already witnessed. Today is a day of new beginnings, she declared, voice ringing clear. Each of us carries a piece of heaven's light. Let us rise together in faith and reclaim our destinies. The air thickened with divine energy as she spoke, wrapping around the congregation like a sacred cocoon. The villagers leaned in closer, their eyes wide not just in wonder, but in a shared belief that something monumental was unfolding. A child stepped forward, innocence and courage radiating from him. Can we keep the miracles coming? Can we create them every day? His question fluttered through the space like a butterfly, light and full of potential. Yes. Mary beamed, her heart swelling. Every day is a chance to breathe life into our dreams. Miracles don't just happen, they manifest in our actions, our compassion, and our unity. Let us be the light for each other. As the orb pulsed in response, villagers began to share, speaking their dreams and fears aloud. Joy spilled over as they engaged in prayer, the sound weaving through the chapel like a melodious thread. I want to feel joy again, called one voice from the back, sparking a chorus of affirmations. I yearn for peace within, echoed another. Mary smiled wide, understanding the profound truth being revealed. They weren't simply lifting individual burdens. They were uplifting one another. Possibilities were blooming as everyone joined their faith into a harmonious chorus. This time, as Mary led the prayer, she felt the golden orb growing brighter, the power of collective belief wrapping around the chapel like a warm embrace. Lord, we thank you for the light. We thank you for healing not just our bodies but our spirits. Let us bring forth the blessings that you have promised. Immediately, the light danced, filling every corner of the chapel. Eyes shimmered bright as two villagers gasped in awe. They pointed upward, and everyone turned to follow their gaze. The orb had multiplied, bursting into smaller orbs of light, each darting around joyfully like fireflies, igniting excitement and laughter among the villagers. What is this? Someone exclaimed. Mary grinned, her spirit soaring. These are our hopes, our dreams. They are here because we dared to believe in the power of love and unity. Up in the air, the little orbs illuminated faces filled with smiles, brightening the room. Moments passed, each flicker carrying a new promise, and Mary's heart raced with anticipation. Gather close, family, she called, and they formed a circle, hands clasped tightly, hearts aligned. Take a moment. Feel the energy around you. Feel the pulsating rhythm of hope within our community. As they stood together, a wind swept through, swirling around them and igniting laughter and joy. It was palpable, an electrical charge that pulled at their spirits, urging them closer. With every pulse of the orbs, miracles flowed. Hope morphed into manifestation. Here in our circle, Mary exclaimed, we honor what has been shared. Let us claim all that God has prepared for us, and walk boldly into our transformation. The light rushed downward, enveloping them all in warmth. The energy thickened, and they could feel thoughts and prayers exchanging between them, a sacred transaction of faith, where souls touched in divine magnitude. As a soft hymn began to rise from their lips, each note lifted their spirits. In unison, they sang of love, resilience, and hope, wrapping themselves in shared belief. "I want to heal," a voice broke through, tremulous yet filled with determination. A middle-aged man stepped toward the altar, his shoulders stooped. "I've battled with despair for years, but today I choose the light." Without hesitation, Mary reached out. "You are not alone. Beloved, release it all. Let that light fill you, to heal the heart that feels heavy." The orb ignited with fresh brightness, surging toward him in answer to his prayer. A gasp echoed in the chapel as the man trembled, tears spilling down his face. Suddenly, he thrust up his arms, outstretched as the radiant light spun around him. "I feel it," he cried out joyfully, laughter bubbling forth like a stream. "A warmth! I've never felt so alive." Cheers erupted, and applause swept through the chapel, reminding them all that miracles had indeed taken root. Mary, overwhelmed with joy, watched each villager step boldly into their healing, their journeys intertwining. Miracles were no longer confined to the mystical. They were alive in every whispered prayer, every act of love shared between them. "This," she exclaimed, standing at the center of their divine gathering, "this is what it means to awaken. Together as one heart and spirit, we transform our world." It is not just about receiving miracles. It's about living them. We are a living testimony. One by one, testimonies flowed around the circle like water, healing freely shared and celebrated. Community love wrapped its arms around every heart they were changing, transforming into vessels of the divine, unstoppable and unyielding. Yet, beneath the waterous surface, a still small voice whispered within Mary, reminding her that this was not the end. There remained a deeper calling, one that begged to be answered as they entered the world outside. What lies ahead? She wondered, gazing around at her neighbors, who had become her family. What awaits us beyond this sacred moment? As they carried the divine spirit within them, ready to break new grounds, Mary felt the urgency to act. Moments were woven carefully, holding promises of adventures and miracles yet to come. They were poised at the threshold, ready to release faith into the world, amplifying hope for all. Mary raised her arms skyward, her heart ablaze. "Together we will take this light. We will join hands with the world and transform every shadow into light. Let our journey unfold, where miracles are not merely awaited but actively called forth." And with that, a new journey began, a divine awakening bursting forward, a chorus of hope echoing down the cobbled streets of Little Whimsy, fearlessly, infinitely, indescribably alive. Now, dear friends, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and elevate our community of believers. Comment with your reactions and testimonies about this beautiful ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of hope. This is the moment to show your support, for only true servants of God understand the importance of helping spread these powerful stories. Don't wait even one more second.